Life in the desert was interesting because there was always something to do in terms of adventure and things to find. In fact, even though the desert looked like there was nothing out there were all kinds of things out there. And one of the things we discovered one day was a pile of 4x8 wall sections of a portable building. Somebody had used it, they disassembled the building, stacked the panels up and left them. They didn't belong to anybody. We saw the pile, and when we got back to our camp where we stored our equipment, somebody said, hey, wouldn't it be neat if we reassembled that building back here at this particular drilling site, and we can store our tools in it and our instruments. We had a lot of expensive tools and electronic instruments and other things that were expensive, and some of the equipment was rather dangerous. So the thought was, rather than just leaving it in an unprotected way, let's rebuild that building. So we went back, brought the panels back, and set the house up. Took about a day to do it. It's a clever building. Whoever designed it made it so you could easily attach one panel to the next. Took us a day. We had 4 walls and a roof. We built it on the sand. We smoothed the sand out, had a nice smooth foundation. And we felt very proud of ourselves. So we went to bed that night and got up the next morning. Well, in the meantime, while we were sleeping, a strong southern wind came in. The wind came from the south, and it beat on the east side of the building. And obviously the wind, when it hit that side, had to go to the right or left, which it did. With great force, it moved to the right and left, and the effect was to remove a whole lot of sand. And in fact, when we got up the next morning, the building was slumping on that south wall as the wind had taken all the sand away. So our little house was really ineffective, and it kind of leads to a question. We were proud of ourselves because we had this new building, but now we don't have a useful building. So it looks like we had a foundational problem. The problem was we didn't have a foundation. The problem was we built our house on sand, which reminds me of what it says in the Bible about if you build your house upon the sand and the storms come, it'll probably fall. If you build your house upon the rock and the storms come, it's not going to fall. Well, we did build our house upon the sand. It's just kind of reflecting back a life lesson about what foundation are we building our life upon, because where you start will determine where you end. And that vivid picture of that building slumping over has been a constant reminder there needs to be a lot of rational thought about how we put our lives together. Upon what foundation are you building? Have you thought about what your end desire is? Can you get to that desire based on where you're operating right now? What principles, what values, what beliefs are you building on? That has been a real big question for me. And I think my Libyan experience really drove that point home. That life is something we need to reflect on, especially foundational issues.